Okay, this is a book review, and here is the book. The name of the book is called Towards a New Rhetoric. The real author, what it's really about, is this guy, Francis Christensen. And so Francis Christensen here, I'll show you his picture. The guy is a genius. He did something really good. He was a professor of English, like English literature, at University of Southern California. And he noticed that almost none of the English teachers and the grammar teachers were any good at writing. And he says, if we're the teachers who teach writing, how come we suck at writing? Maybe it's because we don't know what we're talking about. So what he decided to do is to pick a bunch of books of writers who were considered really good writers. You know, popular fiction, for example, or nonfiction as well. And he would then take their books and he started diagramming all the sentences in a row to get a sense of what their sentences look like. And what he realized was they use many more free modifiers, many more what are called cumulative sentences. And he also noticed they use a lot of appositives. So the point of all this is, what do I think is interesting here? The fact that just like in college, the psychologists are totally worthless. If you look at like male-female relationships, you go to a college psychologist, they're going to tell you they don't even know the difference between a man and a woman. So it's like, well, anybody who doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman, they've disqualified themselves to give useful advice about relationships. Okay, they're a joke. Academia will never criticize anything that women do bad because it's part of the establishment, you know, to feminize the whole country. Okay, so, but this is a common thing. We have a problem in this country. Our medical doctors don't know anything about nutrition, health, and disease causation. Okay? It's funny, I spoke to an internal medicine doctor, a super bright guy, IQ probably like 150, one of the smartest internists you'll ever meet in your life. And I said to him, it's because you internists, you're not trained in nutrition. I call it NETS, N-E-T-S. Nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology, or anything that starts with S, like spirituality, religion, you know, sleep, sedentary versus exercise, and things along with that way, sense of purpose, etc. Anyways, it's true. All of the most important stuff about health, they don't know anything about it. And he started laughing. He goes, well, there's plenty of budget money for training in DEI. I thought that was funny. But none to teach them how you actually cure a disease or what causes a disease. It's a joke, okay? And so like I said, all the psychiatric medications cause lobotomy. It's a joke. You go to the grade schools and the high schools, all the public grade schools and high schools, they never teach study skills. The most important thing you could teach a young person. It's a joke. And so what this guy came to the conclusion, sadly it takes a genius to figure out that their entire field is a joke. And he just came to the obvious conclusion that English teachers don't know anything about the English language for teaching somebody how to write. That's why they all suck at writing. Okay, you almost never hear about an English teacher that becomes a good writer. You know, it's kind of like, you know, in the Catholic Church, because they don't allow priests to get married, you almost never see a Catholic priest that can write worth a crap, okay, because they don't pick men that are good at writing and speaking, which is what the pastor, the priest should be. All right, well, anyways, go back to Spanish, the Spanish language taught in schools, or any language taught in schools. Because the grade schools and the high schools teach languages based on grammar, they suck. You can't learn a language based on grammar. Little kids in their native language, they don't learn grammar. They never open a grammar book. They communicate. They talk. So anyways, the first step to doing anything correct is understanding what you're trying to do. And it's like Aristotle said, if you want to fix a problem, it's like trying to untie a knot. You first have to figure out where the knot is. You have to figure out what is the actual problem and how to approach it. Okay, so anyways, with all that lead up, appositives are kind of a cool concept. So an appositive, think of it as being opposed, like glued together to something. And it's just a quick, you have a noun phrase at the beginning, that's your subject, you know, concrete noun phrase, and then you immediately follow it with an appositive, which is just a renaming of the subject. Okay, so here would be an example. Isaac Newton, discoverer of the law of gravity, was a heretic. Okay, so that's the appositive. Discoverer of the law of gravity, a way to rephrase what had been said. Okay, here's a sentence by Dostoevsky, like from Notes of the Underground. I'm terribly proud. I'm as mistrustful and as sensitive as a hunchback or a dwarf. But in truth, I've experienced some moments where if someone had slapped my face, I would have been grateful for it. Okay, a little bit crazy, but the point I'm saying is when he throws in a bizarre word like a hunchback or a dwarf, it's sort of a renaming of the subject and it kind of startles you. And that's kind of like how your friends talk. When a friend talks to you, they try to throw in little surprises to make you laugh and surprise you, entertain you, joking around. Okay? And that's how the great writers write. And that's more like how we talk. I mean, the best rule of writing, I believe, is just a simple one. write like you were talking to an intelligent friend. Okay, for the most part, that works. Okay, here's another Fyodor Dostoevsky quote. This is not exact. This is more of a modifier, a free modifier. That's the other point Christensen said. He said what the great writers do, they're constantly throwing in appositives to add information about the subject. They're also constantly throwing in free modifiers, again, to add information about the subject. And then he got into the concept of cumulative sentences, like the mind running in free form, where you keep on adding a clause and a clause and a clause, sort of an open-ended sentence, how the brain actually thinks. And then I'll talk about periodic sentences. So he's good for getting the idea of sentence structure. And this goes a lot with the University of Iowa writing course. The Brooks Landon has a good DVD, audio CD course on writing. You can watch most of his videos for free if you search on the internet about how to write cumulative sentences and periodic sentences. This stuff is worth knowing. I don't think it's the most important thing, but I do think it's useful to have a sense of this so you can jazz up what you're talking. I like Tom Wolfe, the American writer, and what he said was when he was a young man, he thought about 70% of good writing was the skill of the writer. And then later on, he changed it totally. He inverted that 100%. He said once he had more experience writing, he realized about 70% of good writing was having something to say. Okay, and only 30% was the writer's technique. Another sentence by Fyodor Dostoevsky, even those who renounce Christianity and criticize it, in their innermost being, they still try to follow the Christian ideal. No one has been able to create a higher ideal of man and virtue than the ideal given by Christ. Okay, so that's throwing in that little modifier, in their innermost being. And that phrase coming at us as a surprise is what sticks with us. You know, sort of said, that which comes from the heart goes to the heart. And so that's one of the keys to being a good writer, is saying that little thing that's in your head, but you're not sure if you should say it. Just say it. And that's usually what will resonate with the audience. So these are little tricks for being able to write better. Okay, Francis Christensen, written language relies principally upon the sentence as a unit of expression, but spoken language relies upon the phrase. Okay. Let's see. All right, that's okay stuff. Then he's going to get into the cumulative syntax, the loose running sentence, where you keep on adding clauses, like the mind thinking in a dynamic sense. Then there's periodic sentences where it ends with a strong conclusion. And that's like the great Cicero sentence. To not know what happened before you were born is to forever remain a child. So the professorial periodic sentence is like a decided conclusion. It's sort of the opposite of a cumulative running sentence. Francis Christensen is known as the father of cumulative syntax because he figured all this stuff out. Let's see, he wrote about this back in the 1950s. I'm not going to get into all these sentences. Here's a guy down here that I referred to earlier, Brooks Landon, Building Better Sentences DVD course. So I would say if you're serious about becoming a writer, you want to watch that course. And like I said, you could watch it free online, even though you could also buy the DVD course or the audio CD course, and it comes with a guidebook. You could probably get it at Wondrium as well. Here's another quote. Well, this is sort of a cumulative syntax where you keep on adding on phrases. Here's one by Cicero. I love Cicero, by the way. He's my favorite of the ancient Romans. He says, the ancient customs on which Rome was founded have been so utterly buried in oblivion that not only are they no longer practiced, but they are forgotten. Okay, so this is just adding on another descriptive clause, another descriptive clause, another descriptive clause. Okay, that would be a cumulative sentence. And then here would be Oscar Wilde. To win back my youth, I would do anything except take up exercise, wake up early, or be a useful member of the community. Okay, so just getting a sense. That's how you can write a sentence if you want. So, anyways, I hope that was helpful. It's a good little book.